wanted you to explain a little bit about what you mentioned at the beginning of the show as far as, I guess that's child support when a child reaches maybe 18 or is headed to college. What were your thoughts on that?
It's called post-minority support. Child support in Alabama, you can typically get child support up until the age of 19, at which time the child is considered to have reached the age of majority. Now, what about that child who is 18, about to be 19, but is looking forward to going to college or maybe a trade school? Because some people think that it's just for college, but it can also be used for vocational school. We have what's called post-minority support in Alabama. And when the child reaches the age of 18, you have to file a petition for post-minority support. You can't file it too soon and you can't file it too late. If you wait until the child reaches the age of 19, you are barred by operation of law. The child has to be 18 years of old. So what happens is, let's say you got a child that graduate when they're 17 and they go to college, well then the child support will continue, but when that child becomes 18, you need to immediately think, I need to file my petition for post-minority support. There is one exception, and that is if you are divorced. Okay. And it was specifically reserved that college educational expenses will be addressed as far as your particular divorce case, then you don't have the age limitation. But I tell people, don't gamble with it. When they turn 18, along with their birthday, just automatically think, I need to go back to court. Right. We need to address post-minority support. Now, the difference is child support is based upon the income of the parties, okay? And calculated pursuant to what we call the child support guidelines. Post-minority support is based upon the college expenses, the amount of college, and some of your judges say not to exceed the cost of Alabama or Auburn, just to kind of put some limitations. Not that they have to go to those schools, but just recognizing that every parent cannot afford Vanderbilt or Emory. So just putting some type of stipulation. Now, there is a new case law that's called Wagner versus Wagner, which is really not as new, but is fairly new. And what it does, it not only takes into account the tuition, but other expenses such as maybe travel expenses of the child, maybe a car or vehicle, is what we call reasonable and necessary expenses of the child. So we have the post-minority support. And also, it's important for me to acknowledge that if you have a child with disability, post-minority support is also applicable in that case under what we call BALIS. Now, if you have a child that became disabled prior to reaching the age of minority, then you can still ask for post-minority support beyond that age. And I had a very unique situation because I had an elderly couple that was in their 80s that filed for a divorce, and they had a child that was like 50-something years old. And the attorney, this child was born with a disability. Well, I filed a counterclaim and answer, and I asked for child support because this child, I mean, although an adult, he was born with a disability. It continued beyond the age of majority, and so therefore, under BALIS, he was entitled to child support or post-minority support in that particular case. Now, remember, along with child support, the difference with post-minority is that you have to show an ability to pay, and it's also based upon the reasonable expenses of the child related to school, so not just how much the person makes. Also, there are stipulations that are put in place. Maybe the child has to maintain a C average. Maybe the child has to be a full-time student enrolled. Maybe the parent has to give the other parent grace. So there are other stipulations that the court may put in place. But you do have post-minority support. So as we come up to graduation season, I want you guys to start thinking about post-minority support.